the questions where you're going to be asked to use Desmos to find your answers. Okay? Quite simply, all you really have to do is type in to the Desmos calculator the equations. So the first equation was x squared plus 7x plus 1. And the second one is negative 2x squared minus 5x. And these will be specific problems, or plus 2. These would be specific problems you wouldn't be able to factor or get like an answer that's close to being legit. So the first answer is 0.082, 1.578. I'm a big fan of rounding to the nearest thousands here. Okay. So my first point as I go back is going to be 0.082 and 1.578. Now my next point, 1.578. Okay. My next point, I'm literally just looking for where there's an intersection on the graph. And the point will be there. It'll make itself apparent. Negative 4.82, negative 10.912. Negative 4.082, negative 10.912. We're just looking for the point of intersection. That's your answer. Okay, the previous questions on the test, you had to find those points on a manual graph that you drew. These two questions is based on you plugging it into the Desmos calculator. Our next question, same deal. We're just plugging both of these in to the Desmos calculator in this case. And plug it in as exactly as it's written. You don't even need to FOIL it. We're going to go x plus 2, x minus 1. And then on the bottom, we're going to go negative x squared minus 6x minus 1. So 1 point, negative 3.637, 7.549. And my second point, 0.137, negative 1.844. You're just looking for the points of intersection on the graph and plugging it into your answer. It's probably the most straightforward questions I'm going to ask you in anything. Negative 3.637, 7.594 is an answer. 0.137, negative 1.844 is an answer. And those are my answers off the Desmos calculator. Negative b over 2a, which means negative 4 over 2 times 1, we get negative 2. We plug the negative 2 into our equation. Negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 1. Positive 4 minus 8 minus 1, we get a negative 5. So my vertex here is negative 2, negative 5. And I'm going to plot that right away. Negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My points are easy. 1 point is 0, negative 1. You plug 0 in for x, you get a negative 1. My second point is just symmetric. It's negative 4, negative 1. I went 2 to the right. I need to go 2 to the left. It's a dotted line. And I've got to recognize where is the 0, 0. The 0, 0 is here. Is 0 less than negative 1? That's a false statement. So I shade where the 0, 0 is not. Greater than, less than have nothing to do with shading inside or outside. Does the 0, 0 point make a true statement? If it does, we shade where the 0, 0 is. If the 0, 0 makes a false statement, we shade where it's not. Are there any questions with that? That's it. The second one, my vertex I can get right away. It's negative 1, 4. And I'll draw that. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We know this is opening down. I'm going to plug 0 in for my x. 1 squared is 1. Negative 2 plus 4 is equal to 2. So my next point here, 0, 2. That's right here. Which means I went over, I got to go over 1 the other way. Negative 2, 2. Those are my points. Does 0, 0 give me a true statement? If I plug 0 in for y and 0 in for x, is 0 less than 2? Yup. It's a dotted line, and the 0, 0 is inside the parabola. 0, 0 is inside. The 0, 0 makes it true, so we shade on the inside. My advice to you is pick any point in the shaded region and make sure it's true. Over-exaggerating. On the first one, 10, 0 should be true. 0 is going to be less than 10 squared plus 4 times 10 minus 1. 10, 0 should be a false statement. 0 is not going to be less than 10 plus 1 squared times a negative 2 plus 4. Okay? So check your work when you... We're going to graph the first one, or the top one first. That's negative 2 over 2 times 1. We get negative 1 for my x coordinate of my vertex. When I plug that in, negative 1 squared times 2 times negative 1 minus 3, we get 1 minus 2 minus 3, we get negative 4. So the vertex is negative 1, negative 4, and my points are 0, negative 3, and negative 2, negative 3. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, negative 3, negative 2, negative 3. And it's greater than or equal to, so it's a solid line. Second one. Negative 4 over 2 times negative 2. We get a negative 1 again. Negative 2 times negative 1 squared minus 4 times negative 1 plus 5. Negative 1 squared is 1 times a negative 2, that's negative 2, plus 4 plus 5 is 7. My vertex then is negative 1, 7. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0, 5 is a point. So therefore, negative 2, 5 is a point. And it's a dotted line. Now we do the shaded region for both. 0, 0 makes this true. 0 is greater than negative 3. It's inside the parabola. 0 is less than 5. It's also inside that parabola. So we shade on the inside of this parabola. And my double shaded region is my answer. And that's what I'm looking for on the test. I'm looking for the correct double shaded. So our first step is to factor. X squared minus 4x minus 12 is greater than 0. X minus 6, x plus 2 is greater than 0. So my answers, and I want to put them in order. Left to right or lowest to greatest. Negative 2 and 6 are my answers. I'm going to do two separate number lines. I'm going to do one number line to get my answer, and then I'm going to put it on a number line. I'm going to pick 0. 0 is between negative 2 and 6. When I plug 0 in, I get a false statement. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. That's not greater than 0. So it's false, which means my other two regions are true. every one of the problems I'm going to give you, you're going to get alternating true, false, true, false. So it's either false, true, false, or true, false, true. So now, if I were to graph it on a number line, it's a greater than sign. So they're open dots, and it's true left to -2 and right to the 6. And then my set notation is negative infinity to -2 with parentheses, and 6 to infinity with parentheses. Remember, infinities always get parentheses. The numbers get parentheses when it's a greater than or less than. And the numbers get brackets when it's a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So this right here is what your answer should look like, for me at least. Okay? The second one is even easier factor. X plus 5 times x plus 3 is less than or equal to 0. My answers are -5 and -3. So my 0 is over here. When you plug 0 in, 0 plus 5 is 5, 0 plus 3 is 3, 5 times 3 is 15. That gives you a false statement. 15 is not less than 0, which means I'm true between -5 and -3 and false out here. My number line, -5 to -3, it's a less than or equal to. Close dots. And my set notation involves brackets. Please make sure it's clear that it's a bracket, not a parenthesis. If I can't distinguish, it's wrong either way. You have to be very clear with the brackets and the parentheses. And that is your set notation.